I think these games are going to be different.
The day has finally come. I remember reading about Haymitch's games and Catching Fire over a decade ago and using my imagination as much as a diehard fan can. Now we're actually seeing it with our own eyes, and I know I'm not the only one absolutely pumped up over this. It's honestly surreal. With a year to go before Sunrise on the Reaping hits theaters, we just got our first teaser. These are my general thoughts. I'll talk about what I liked, what stood out, and a few things I definitely didn't see coming. As we go, we'll break down some of those shots, look at key scenes, and point out some hidden details. Just a quick heads up, there will be spoilers in the sense that we're discussing what the trailer reveals. But we're mostly sticking to what's shown, so this should give you a clear picture of what's going on and what we can look forward to in the next round of trailers. If you're new around here and love or want to learn more about the Hunger Games, consider joining us. Before we dive into any of the details, I actually did something pretty cool. I took the teaser and rearranged all the clips into the order they appear in the book. This should give you an idea of how the story will unfold. I'll play that now so you can see it for yourself, but if you want to skip ahead, the timestamp is below.
Welcome, Panem, to the glorious reaping of District 12.
Twice the number of tributes, twice the glory. It's time for the second quarter quell. Let the 50th Hunger Games begin!
I think these games are going to be different.
Alright, the teaser opens with the reaping ceremony. I've been traveling for the past couple of months and actually ended up in Germany, about 25 minutes away from the filming location, right while they were shooting this scene, so it already hits with a bit of sentiment for me. It's classic Hunger Games structure to start chapter 1 with the reaping. Sunrise, though, approaches it a bit different. The reaping carries far more weight for our main character's journey. It isn't a typical selection when it comes to our main character. And that character is Haymitch Abernathy, the same Haymitch who goes on to mentor Katniss and Peeta. Here we see him 24 years earlier during his own games. This is the 50th Hunger Games, or the second quarter quell. A quarter quell is a twisted version of the games, and this year, the capital is doubling the number of tributes, making the arena twice as crowded and twice as deadly. The girl in the yellow here is Drusilla Sickle. Think of her as Haymitch's Effie. She's the capital escort, the one who pulls the names, brings the tributes to the capital, and oversees them in the days leading up to the arena. Drusilla is nowhere near as playful as Effie. She's stuck up and careless, your classic privileged capital citizen assigned to manage the poorest district. And she does hate District 12, which doesn't give Haymitch or any of his 3 other fellow tributes great odds. They wheel Drusilla out on some kind of a stretcher, which I found a bit odd. There's no mention in the book of her making an entrance like this. You can also see her wearing a crow or a raven, some sort of a bird, as a headpiece. In this era of the capital, wearing animals, sometimes living ones, is a trend, though it's seen as a bit tacky. But Drusilla, being the brat she is, would lean into something like that. And the choice of a raven is huge for Haymitch's character. Suzanne Collins wrote Haymitch in a similar style to the narrators from Edgar Allan Poe's famous poems, Lenore and The Raven. One of my next videos digs into how the games broke Haymitch, where it will go deeper than what we get in this trailer, and break down the symbolism of the Raven, which still echoes into his role as a mentor during the 74th games. Overall, the reaping stage looks great. It feels like a more grown-up version of the one we got in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I do like that direction. Personally though, I still prefer the vibe of the Catching Fire reaping stage over both of these designs. Catching Fire's setup is a bit more subtle. It puts focus on the justice building, while these newer takes really frame the District 12 facilities around it. That's not to undermine that we get more of the Justice Building in this than we did in Ballad, which makes sense. Ballad takes place 40 years earlier, and naturally, things are changing. In the background, you can spot some posters for the 50th games, along with some Capitol propaganda labeling President Snow as Panem's #1 peacekeeper. The style of these posters pulls from the saturated look of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and that Snow poster, it's a play on the Big Brother is watching you imagery from 1984. A lot of Sunrise draws from 1984, those government lies, forced messaging, propaganda, and systems designed to keep the citizens obedient. Everything involving the Capitol and President Snow should feel totalitarian and eerie, even more than any other Hunger Games movie. On the far side of the screen, you can see a couple more posters. The Capitol is going all out decorating for the Quarter Quell. We also get a good look at the Peacekeepers' updated uniforms. Why do they have a different look than the main trilogy and Ballad? It's just a time progression detail. Decades pass between each story, and this is how the Peacekeepers looked roughly 2.5 decades before Katniss. And there's also a more modern take on those oval TVs we saw in Ballad. The next shot appears later in the teaser, but it takes place during the same scene. It's Jesse Plemons as a young Plutarch Heavensbee. Jesse Plemons is one of my favorite actors, so I will be a little bit biased when I say this, but not only does he look like a young Plutarch, I don't think there's anyone better suited to play both sides of Plutarch's complicated character. Plutarch is the man who eventually brings down the games during Katniss's era, using Katniss as a way to spread his message. He grew up in the Capitol understanding what it meant to keep the districts in line, but later has a change of heart and realizes how horrific the games are. From around this era, he's quietly working to sabotage the system from the inside. That's why a couple decades later, he's a game maker in Catching Fire, but here, he's not there yet. In Sunrise, he's in charge of the District 12 reaping broadcast, and he has his work cut out for him because things go wrong, and this shot shows him fixing the broadcast feed. In the bottom corner, you can see a young boy. This appears to be Haymitch's little brother, Sid. There's another look at Sid with Haymitch in their house in the Seam, the same house that we see burning down at the end. In that shot, there's Katniss's father, Burdock, one of Haymitch's closest friends, and what looks like Astrid March, Katniss's mother, holding Haymitch back from running into his burning home. Haymitch shows Sid his flint striker, the token he brings into the arena and actually uses in this shot with Lulu. We'll talk about her more in a minute. The flint striker is a gift from Lenore Dove, the love of his life. You can see Lenore with her geese. The geese are a big part of Lenore's character. In Catching Fire, I've always loved the color grading during the meadow scene with Katniss and Gale, and this looks just as cinematic, right on par visually. Lenore Dove is related to Lucy Gray. They're both Bairds, coming from the Covey, the traveling music group that was confined to District 12. Lenore has a very different view of the world, and that perspective connects Haymitch to bigger themes. She's part of what makes him a troublemaker in the Capitol's eyes, someone who wants to tear down the games and stop the sun from rising on a world where the reaping exists. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of her. So far, I love what we're getting. Every Hunger Games features a different biome. Katniss had a forest, then a tropical arena. Haymitch has a meadow, a kind of poison paradise because nearly everything is deadly. We see a lot of flowers. Don't smell them, they will kill you. Really, the only guaranteed safe items are the supplies at the cornucopia, which sits as a beautiful monument at the center of the arena. And this cornucopia is gorgeous. White, gold, and purple. Even the weapons are all white. It all plays into the aesthetic of the arena, and the Capitals want to make this Quarter Quell feel visually special. But I'll be the first to say it, this is not shaped like a traditional cornucopia. Part of the hunger symbolism comes from that horn-shaped cornucopia spilling out weapons like a twisted version of food and the tributes fighting over them. Do I think changing the cornucopia's shape is a problem? Not really. Besides the hardcore fans, I don't think most viewers are going to care, especially because this cornucopia's design is genuinely beautiful. If you're wondering why the flowers are arranged the way they are inside the tribute circle, that's revealed at the end of the games after Haymitch wins. The camera pulls out to a bird's eye view and the entire arena forms the shape of an eye. Again, very Big Brother is watching you, totalitarian and symbolic. The flower patches create the iris, while the cornucopia sits at the center like the pupil. All of the tributes have removable capes and are color-coded by district. Haymitch is in the District 12 black, and he's standing next to one of his biggest opponents, Panache Barker. We do get a shot of them going at it. And shout out to these axes, Haymitch ends up using these later. We get some more close-ups of the tributes. One of them is Lulu, one of the girl tributes from District 12. Except she's not actually from District 12. She's the stand-in for Luella, the original girl who was chosen from 12, who died before the games even started. The Capitol found a replacement. They grabbed this Luella lookalike, brainwashed her, and now she's in the arena. Yes, technically the first tribute dies before the games begin, and I believe it happens in this scene with President Snow. He's wearing that classic velvet red we see later down the timeline, and he has a big rose pinned to his chest. That rose covers the scent of poison on his breath. We only get one shot of him, but this is a great look for Snow. Other tributes include Amper, the 12-year-old boy from District 3. He is the youngest in the arena. He's also the son of Beatty, who later helps Katniss and the rebellion by creating a communications jammer system. In this era, he started working on that, but got caught by the Capitol, so his punishment is to have his son in the arena, with Beatty himself assigned as his mentor. Haymitch is also a part of the growing rebellion that will eventually help Katniss overthrow the games, and the foundation of that all begins in this movie. Since Amper and Haymitch are both defiant and eager to push back against the Capitol, they become allies for a while in a very similar way to Katniss and Rue. I can't help but wonder what Haymitch thought years later when he saw Katniss partner with the youngest tribute in the arena. I imagine it brought him right back to this moment in his own games. And they have a secret plan to sabotage the arena. It looks like Amper nodding to Haymitch is like a, let's do this. Then we transition to get a good look at Joseph Zada as young Haymitch. He looks fantastic. Not an alcoholic yet, strong, ready to fight, ready to face death, and absolutely ready to stick it to the Capitol. The teaser turns into a countdown as we get a good look at a few more tributes. First up is Panache Barker. He's one of the boy career tributes from District 1, meaning he trained for the games and volunteered with an edge to win. His older brother won just a couple years before. But what I like about Panache and all of the other careers is they actually look like teenagers, not adults playing kids like in the first movie. No disrespect to those actors or that film. I love the original Hunger Games, but these are supposed to be kids, and showing that gives this arena a whole different feel. As for Panache, just a personal take, this is not what I expected when I first read the book. I love how he looks in this, but when they described him as physically the largest tribute, I imagined large as in heavy, like a bully who bulked up and could throw people around. Someone in the comments described him as husky, like a farm boy build, and that's exactly what I pictured. When they said his brother won a couple years before and he's the biggest tribute, my brain went straight to, oh, he trained as a career and is ripped, but maybe got a little bulkier because he has more access to food coming from a victor's family. Like he's a bit spoiled, which could explain why he isn't the smartest and tends to rely on his strength. But nope, Panache is ripped and he looks great. Then to Maisily Donner, the original owner of Katniss's Mockingjay pin. Maisily has a twin sister back in District 12, who's the mother of one of Katniss's friends. That's how Katniss gets the pin in the first book, though the movies change this. Haymitch calls Maisily the most stuck-up girl in town, since she's a little bit cocky and comes from the merchant side of District 12. That's why she has blonde hair, the same as Katniss's mother and Prim, who also have those merchant class features. The merchants are a little bit better off than the coal miners of the Seam, where Haymitch comes from. Maisily is about to become one of the most popular characters in the entire series, and if you're here before the movie drops, Congratulations, you were here before it was cool. Then we go to Silka Sharp, another career from District 1. She and Maceley do not get along, sort of like the stuck-up blondies that like to take jabs at each other. Silka is also Haymitch's final boss in the arena. In that shot where Haymitch is holding his stomach, he's actually holding in his intestines. Silka slashed him with her axe. This is the only shot we get of their final fight, but we also get a good shot of Silka in the bloodbath at the cornucopia. This arena looks a lot more natural compared to the one in Catching Fire, where you can clearly tell many of those elements were digitally added. They filmed a bunch of Catching Fire at a water park in Atlanta. So much of that environment was created in post. This movie is shot on location and looks like it's coming straight from the camera. As timing goes for this trailer, they filmed this not too long ago, so the lack of CGI shots is likely because they are still working on those now. Also why I think we don't get a good look at any of those animal mutts. Those take more time to finalize. But then we do have a shot like this, Haymitch and Ampert, where you can definitely see some clean CGI in the background. And this might be a hot take, but I do like the stylized CGI look for the arenas. It makes them feel more tech heavy, and in this case, almost too beautiful, like the arena is artificially perfect. This plotline with Ampert is where they're following that rebel plan to drown the brain of the arena. Haymitch is giving Ampert a fake tour of the forest, but he's really showing him some of those portals that lead to Sub A, the level beneath the arena where the game makers release the mutts. We see Haymitch opening a door, and yes, this is actually escaping the arena. And in the next shot, he's drenched because the plan was semi-successful. You'll notice Ampert is missing from this shot, and yeah, that's intentional. Before Haymitch allies with Ampert, he actually teams up with Lulu very early on. There's this shot of him sprinting away from the bloodbath and into the forest. You can tell this is after the bloodbath because he's still wearing that cape. We get a tease of Haymitch taking on a part of the career pack. I say a part because Silka and a few others are not with them, but Panache is here. He has both a sword and a shield, making this very close to the book. We also see another career tribute, one of the girls from District 4. Yes, here District 4 is a career district, unlike in the first movie where their presence was cut out. The last major arena event shown in the trailer is Haymitch's final alliance with Maceley. The two of them hike toward the edge of the arena. They come across these massive hedges and burn them down using an item from one of their packs. Around this time, they also encounter ladybug mutts, these tiny insects that suck your blood and then explode. Those are what cause those facial injuries we see on Maceley. As for this shot of Haymitch yelling, I can't quite place it. It could be Luella's death, Ampert's death, or Maceley's. But no matter what, there's a lot of emotion packed into this moment, and proof Joseph Zada can carry his own as a spiraling Haymitch. Haymitch, of course, wins these games, meaning he has to watch all of his allies die, and some of those deaths are brutal. Arguably more gruesome than what Katniss witnessed, even though she wasn't spared from some nasty deaths either. I think of Kato when I say that. Alright, I think I covered everything. If not, post it in the comments. Overall, this teaser is great. It gives us plenty to look at visually, but I'm excited to see these scenes unfold with some more dialogue. Once we get a more narrative-driven trailer, I think all of these cinematic shots are going to feel more grounded and part of a complete movie. That's all I got for you today, but before I go, I want to give a quick channel update. I've been away for a bit. I've been traveling a lot lately. I actually got to visit the Hunger Games theme park. I've been scripting while on the go and experimenting with some new editing styles, so there are a bunch of deep lore videos on the way as I settle into a new format. I want to make these things as good as possible while keeping everything lighthearted and fun. At the end of the day, we're all here because we love the Hunger Games, and if that's you, consider subscribing. Thanks for tuning in to today's games. I'll catch you in the next one.